Chief Risk Officer at Standard Bank, Ntokozo joins us now to further this discussion on South Africa's economic landscape. Good evening to you, Thabani. Let's get straight into it because there is a serious risk and we were warned about this prior to the May 29 vote. Where do we stand in the current uncertainty and the gravitas that it has on the current landscape?
Good evening, Dumisang. Good evening to your viewers. Look, there is always, in this time, there's always uncertainty, especially where we ended up. I don't think that the market was shocked with the results entirely. There was a lot of polls that were suggesting that, of course, we're going to get a bit of a, ANC was not going to get the majority. And that was something that I think the market had already discounted upfront. What was not always clear was how big was going to be the gap. And so what you see right now, you see a lot of the market sort of waiting and playing a wait-and-see game. And of course, as rumors and noise come into the market, you see people, investing and pulling out and investing and pulling out. Today, we saw the Rand rally, we saw the JSE rally. And again, it's just there's a market starts pricing in options here and saying which options looks better for the market continuity, especially because the big thing that will really dictate what happens is whether we'll have policy continuity. And that's what the market is really worried about at this stage.
And that policy continuity also speaks to how South Africa is going to foster economic growth. We are expecting the latest GDP numbers tomorrow from Stats SA for the first quarter of this year. What's your expectation?
We think that, of course, we're coming off a bit of a highish base, of the other quarter, the 2023 quarter. So we think that the numbers will look a bit mild. We're not expecting any big sort of movements in this quarter, but we do think that the quarter two will have a bit better climb and will pick up a bit better. We'll see a bit of momentum in the latest numbers that will come in for this quarter we're in. But for the quarter one, we think it's going to be quite mild and, in fact, with low growth quarter on quarter, but better year on year.
That same sentiment, of course, was echoed by the central bank just last week when they decided to leave the interest rate unchanged at 8.25%. But they indicate that they will monitor world as well as domestic developments around monetary policy. How's that impacted forecast of the rate cut in the near term in relation to the political outcome that we are waiting for that would then speak to the direction of policy?
Absolutely. I mean, the rate decision was not unexpected. We did think that the Reserve Bank was going to keep it flat because of all this uncertainty, especially, with our own domestic elections, but also in the world. There's a lot of elections that are coming up. And the central bank, European Central Bank has said that they may reduce interest rate in June, but it's still uncertain. And so we didn't anticipate a reduction. We think, in our view, that the Reserve Bank will cut in September in 25 basis points increments, so September as well as November, and then another 50 basis point in the first half of 2025.
Lastly, the near-term outlook, as uncertain as we find ourselves at this point, the ideal outcome, much has been said about a market-friendly political outcome. What would that look like in South Africa? Because we do know that economic policy varies from political party to the other.
Yeah, I mean, there's always options that people are putting out there in terms of what's the best political coalition. I think what we really have to wait for is who gets appointed into what positions as a government is formed, and then look at what their stance is on certain policies. And that's what will really, set up the market and our economic growth. Things like, will they continue to invest in the reforms of Transnet, the reform of Eskom, etc. Those are the things that I think the market will be watching out for. And so a lot of rhetoric will take place in the next while. It will be noisy, but those are the things we should be watching out for, the true data and the true decisions that have been made.
Thank you so much for your insights. Ntokozo is the Chief Risk Officer at Standard Bank, talking to us about the uncertain times that South Africa finds itself in post the 2024 elections.